Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming aboard on another episode of Borderline Genius. With me today is Rachel Marwood. She is our guest co-host because Anthony decided it wasn't important enough to be here. No, I'm just kidding. Anthony's traveling, and Rachel was kind enough to step in and help me co-host today. So looking forward to our conversation with the King of Prussia himself, Christopher Smith. Rachel, would you be so kind as to introduce Chris to the rest of our audience?
Absolutely. Chris is a trade advisor in the Customs Coordination Center North America for IKEA, where his responsibilities include establishing corporate compliance with U.S. customs and government agency relations, developing customs-related projects, and assisting in communicating compliance for the IKEA organization globally. No small task in that list. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
Chris, thanks for coming aboard. We appreciate you making time for us today. I mean, let's get right to it. You've got quite the background, my friend. Kodak, IKEA, doing some speaking engagements with National Association of FTZ. You're a busy man.
It's that kind of time right now. Everybody in trade compliance is quite busy and has a lot on their plate right now. But it's also part of the role as a customs trade advisor. I tend to be the face out to the trade associations that IKEA is a member of, and that's partially because of the way we're set up. So for those who haven't heard me or this part of my normal spiel, IKEA currently is the largest non-resident foreign importer into the United States. So the importer is a Swiss wholesaler.
Wow. I didn't think about that. That's got to be a nightmare on your customs bond right now.
Not necessarily being the non-resident, it's the just everything that's in our range. So yeah, we literally just increased our bond and it jumped threefold. And we were already in that top 2% of large bonds.
Wow. Ooh. You want to plug any particular bond company? Like I said earlier, this forehead is willing to hold any label. I am not above NASCAR. We are willing to prop up anybody who wants to send their stuff for us to market.
I would get in trouble internally for doing that, but you know, be nice to your bond companies right now. Your bond suppliers, they're struggling just like we are.
It's a lot to manage. Their whole industry just flipped upside down with the amount of liabilities that they're covering. It's a difficult environment. So IKEA, I think we all understand and know where IKEA is shipping and what they're shipping. There's this little 232 case that has kind of landed in all of our laps a couple weeks ago, and I suppose maybe just a little bit of it might impact IKEA. Maybe just a little.
Just a smidge. Yeah, you know. So we recently had the timber, lumber, and wood derivatives 232 case drop with all sorts of lovely breakdowns. You know, the primary that was the start of the investigation gets the lowest rate at 10%, and then you've got upholstered furniture at 25%, and then you've got kitchen cabinets and bathroom vanities at 30 or 35 to start, and then jumping to 50% in January. So all sorts of fun there. For IKEA, we definitely have upholstered furniture. We definitely have bathroom vanities and kitchen cabinets. For us, luckily, for a good part of US and Canada, we have a domestic producer for the base cabinets, but we do have like cabinet accessories like drawer fronts and doors and the kick plates that could come in from overseas.
Well, at least you're not bringing in softwood lumber, so there's a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, you know, for things like the the vanities, even if we had them from countries that didn't already have the anti-dumping case, we now have the 232 case.
Well, it just levels the playing field, right? That's what we're told.
Yes, levels the playing field on national security issues.
Well,
what those are, I am not sure.
I'm sure the Amish are thrilled with this, right? I mean, in Lancaster County there, in Lancaster, PA, I'm sure they're ecstatic. Now their vanities and such are on a level playing field.
They were on a better playing field before. I mean, the Amish guys are making it out of solid wood versus board material like we have, you know, which is MDF, HDF, or particle board, which is usually a laminate, sometimes a veneer. You know, but you know, it wasn't an apples to apples comparison with the guys that are doing the high end solid wood, you know, work, you know,
different products.
And they're definitely different price ranges. So I mean, yeah. Plus, I mean, within the industry, even in the areas that we're sourcing, so many of the factories that we're dealing with on these kind of products or any of the other you know, board products that we're dealing with, I mean, the level of automation has increased tremendously over the last 20, 30 years. So I mean, you know, the regional jobs that are being talked about for the Carolinas in that industry, you're not going to have those same jobs coming back with this. You know, a lot of those have been automated out, just like a lot of the other jobs that have left. And it's, you know, either the maintenance jobs for the equipment, it's distribution side of the house for those jobs, or it's more importantly, it's the development, it's the research, development, engineering. And where does that take place? Those are the big ones. I mean, and if you went out and talked to like National Retail Federation, who is a great, you know, across the board retail association we happen to be a member of, I mean, they'll tell you that's where a lot of the high end, high paying jobs are, is in the, you know, the supply chain development, the engineering development, the product development. And those jobs are still, a lot of those are still here. I mean, for IKEA, it tends to be in Sweden, you know, and therefore we end up having to up adjust our price to cover that as an assist.
Right.
Ooh, an assist. I don't know if we want to go down that road.
No, we really
don't. That's a bumpy road. Let's avoid that.
We want to, yeah, we really don't want to get into valuation.
I don't want to make the listeners tune us out. Like, no valuation talk.
Exactly. No one wants to go down that rabbit hole.
So looking specifically at this lumber and its derivatives case, you know, you gave us a really good 30,000 foot kind of overview. What would your recommendations be from a importer standpoint? I think preparation, that kind of is out the window at this point. We're now in reaction mode. What if you are a small to medium importer and you didn't jump in, you don't have a partner in trade that helped you get started, you're in reaction mode. What is something that they could do in this time period to not get crushed like Indiana Jones by the boulder?
Well,
Sorry, Rachel, I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember that movie.
I am.
Okay, just check.
It's tough because from a, I mean, for those that know IKEA, I mean, we sell anything and everything associated with the home. So for us, even meatballs, you can get them in the bistro to take home. They're great.
Done that.
Shameless plug, which I'm not above. But no, I mean, for us, when the case got released, we got our hands on the language out of the Federal Register and, you know, could see exactly what they were referencing. I've already had discussions with my management. Initially, this is the best case scenario we could have asked for based on what they were saying prior to the official release. So it literally is upholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and that's it. I've also already warned my management when they open the inclusion process, which will happen at some point, I anticipate this is going to expand and blow up just like the steel and aluminum inclusion process did. And God only knows where we could end up from what else is going to get included in in the derivatives part. That's the big concern. So depending on where you're already sourcing, it part of me is depending on what you're looking at or the type of products. If you're already in upholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities, start looking. I know for us, we had a lot of interest in India until the Russian oil got added. That's kind of changed a lot of procurement. So we're actually still holding off on any big changes in procurement. And then we've got, based on, if you've got product that falls under some of the other, China stacking, that has a big influence. So now we're starting to see for product, EU with their 15% cap is ending up showing up as a better landed cost model than China, which is freaking out some of the people in our procurement area because they have never seen that. And they think something's wrong with our price model system. So yeah, we've been getting a lot of questions around that. You've got rumors happening this week of a potential trade deal with India that could drop their possible rates back or down below the 25 they were originally. Mm-hmm. If that happens, India could be back on the table. So it's tough. And it's also, like I said, the biggest cloud over everything right now, at least from my advice up my management chain, is the inclusion process and the question mark there, the giant question mark there. Yeah, if this blows up like the steel and aluminum case derivatives did, I mean, you could be talking about duties on toothpicks, tongue depressors,
greeting cards,
any wooden furniture. So, anything with wood in it, it's greeting cards. I mean, technically, yes. Yeah. I mean, anything. I mean, if you follow the early Lacey concerns, mm-hmm. I mean, and that's honestly a good way to think about it. I mean, anything with a label, anything with an instruction manual, anything with a box.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
So yeah, I mean, this could be like the craziness like we have seen in the steel and aluminum. And, I mean, out of that, I mean, I've said it, out of our range, my favorite thing was the plastic buckets because some plastic buckets may have a metal handle, like the infamous Home Depot and Lowe's buckets.
You hear that, Home Depot, Lowe's? We're touting your buckets. I want to see some logos up here. Let's go. Marketing.
But my favorite industry one has been honestly yogurt because of the tinfoil cap on a lot of yogurt containers. And I'm like, all right, so now you're not only you're going after 50% on a couple of cents worth of foil, but it's also the administrative hassle for any company that's dealing with that, trying to go back and get the smelt and cast for the foil. I mean, so the administrative cost well overruns any of the tariffs that you're collecting for the companies. I mean, it's nightmarish. And trying to keep up with it is literally full-time jobs. And, yeah, and you've seen it in the industry where companies and consulting companies are adding people just to trying to keep up with the technical aspects of these. And honestly, the scary part is when you end up going into an audit 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, and and customs is asking you can you prove the country of smelt
Nope.
for your 3 cents worth of aluminum foil on your yogurt?
Man, oh man.
Oh wow. You keep
So
wanting to go down the valuation rabbit hole. I gotta dig you out of
no,
there.
no, no. That's just believe me, because IKEA can't be part of the CTPAT. We're not we are always, after 5 years, we always end up back into the audit pool.
Mhm.
I've been through 3 customs audits in the 19 years I've been here at IKEA. So no, I can tell you how deep and how detailed those audit samples can get. And they will be going down and asking you that. And
Mhm.
what documentation will you have to prove what you declared as your country of melt and pour or smelt and cast?
Well, you've heard it here, listeners. Get your smelting and melting proof. Be ready. Got to make sure that aluminum was smelted where you said it was. Well, the good news is at least they got rid of if you don't know the country of smelt, it's Russia. I mean, they got rid of that.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
so
sure.
that's nice. You don't have
Yeah,
200%.
yeah, instead of 50, you're at 200. That's all.
On your 3
Yeah,
cents of aluminum.
yeah, unless you can't do never mind. That gets into valuation. Never mind.
We're gonna have to ask marketing and post production, get a valuation warning that flashes every time. Now I've got a hot take and I'm curious your thoughts.
Okay.
I keep thinking about where we landed with Europe. The European trade deal at 15% cap. I'm looking at what we've got with the reciprocal tariffs and the SCOTUS hearing coming up here in a couple weeks. I can't help but think, as the eternal rose-colored optimist I am, that the Supreme Court will find consistent that IEPA was not used correctly and does not have the ability, and the president did not have the ability to administer tariffs under IEPA. And I think that 15% is a magic number because of Section 122, which allows the president to immediately impose a 15% tariff on countries for a maximum of 150 days. So I find it far too convenient a coincidence that that seems to be the magic number Europe landed at, and I believe that may be the number we see India eventually get negotiated to. Am I out over my skis too much as a man who I'm sure has done plenty of skiing and has worn enough ski boots to validate that am I out over my skis too much with that assumption that we are in a race against the clock by this administration to lock down these trade deals, and the magic number is 15% because plan B is just to implement section 122 to lock it all down.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So that's one possible way they can offset. And, if IEPO is deemed illegal and, they end up having to refund all the IEPA, that's one way they can at least get to 15%. However, you've got 338, but that may depend on the case that they've joined and whether or not there is an economic harm being done and whether or not a the and why does my mind go blank right here? The deficit between countries,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not that is economic harm, or is it just we spend more or we buy more than we sell, and therefore it's normal economics.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that second case that got it joined going into the Supreme Court, if the deficit is not an economic harm, it may affect the administration's ability to invoke Section 338, which would be a way for them to battle a potential economic harm being done
Mm-hmm.
to the U.S. economy. So that's another big thing to watch in the case, is how do they rule in that part of it? Because that may also limit Section 338. If not, I would expect the administration to immediately jump to 338 to keep the same tariff reciprocal rates applied to all of the countries as is, and therefore the trade deals would be also critical,
Mm-hmm.
for those regions, because they've got the deal. You wouldn't expect the administration to go back and change that now.
Makes sense.
So yeah, there's a lot potentially riding on, there's a lot riding on the Supreme Court case and how they rule on the issues associated with the two cases.
So brings me to your other level of expertise, being that you operate a foreign trade zone. So with tariff rates 15, 25, 232 rates 50%, we're talking some egregiously high tariffs when we consider the history of the U.S. I mean, for most of my career, we were roughly 3% across the board. So these numbers are maybe not catastrophic, but they are certainly close to that. I mean, I hesitate.
Yeah,
I
they're
hesitate to say
sizable.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we went from 2 to 2.5% before 2018.
mhm.
With list 3 and 4A, we jumped to about 7% average duty rate, and we're over 20% right now, average duty rate. And so, yeah, I mean, it's significant. But there are issues, and it depends on how your supply chain is set up. So we operate 2 foreign trade zones. They were originally set up to help minimize duty impact to our Canadian West stores, because we do not have a distribution center in Canada for the stores, the 7 or so stores that are out there. So those are fulfilled through 2 West Coast DCs in the US.
Mhm.
So we set the zones up to be able to try to limit the duty and anti-dumping impact for anything going northbound.
Gotcha.
It also allows us to stretch our cash flow for the products that are coming in for the US stores out of those locations. So if we've got something that's not a Canadian unique, but a North American product, we can still put it in. We know that a certain volume's going northbound. We save those, that duty and anti-dumping on anything going to Canada, because we'll move it inbound from the foreign trade zone to the border. Anything coming in for the US stores, we've pushed that duty payment from the time it arrived in the US till the time it moves out to the store. So, and depending on what your inventory turn is, that could give you a 3 to 6 month, a year stretch on your duty payment.
So the FTZ, you would, for a distribution to foreign market network,
It's still a plus.
Still a plus.
Yep, it's still a benefit to have it if you are supplying to foreign markets. you can still get that savings, especially of the tariffs and anti-dumping for those goods that you're sending out. You intend to export. The big problem with the tariffs and the way that the administration has administered them, especially for those in a manufacturing zone, is they've lost their inverted tariff benefit. So because everything has to go in a preferred foreign status, you're locking in the duty rate at the time of admission, and then you have to report that because it's in preferred status. You have to report all of that when you pull it out, even if it's made into a new and unique article. You have to report those foreign layers that have those tariffs. So you're paying the duty on your components, you're paying the tariffs on your components, and you're not getting, where like in a manufacturing zone, if you're bringing in product and it is substantially transformed into an item, and that item had, a 2% duty rate or a duty-free duty rate versus the 7% that the component had, you were saving 5 to 7% duty. You've lost that with the way that having to put in and lock in the tariff and the the duty and the tariff at the time of admission. So for the manufacturing zones, which theoretically the program is perfect for what the administration wants to do, which is increase, foreign and U.S. investment into manufacturing. Ideally, it's a perfect program for that, but the way they've done the tariffs, it kills the benefit of the program.
So the FTZ is great as a distribution and cash flow program in the sense that you get to defer.
Yes.
But those who were manufacturing, whether, like an exhaust pipe, right? So you get a muffler system, you're in chapter 87, so you should be right around 2.5%, but the pipes are probably coming in at about 5.7%, whether it's stainless steel or whatever. So bringing those pipes in, welding them, creating your exhaust system, theoretically you would have had cash savings, because at 5.7% for the raw material, but the finished component comes out at 2.5%. You've cut your expense in half via the duty inverted duty rate. But now that's not applicable, so you're going to pay the full amount.
Right. And you're paying the 5% on the component plus the 50% on the steel or aluminum.
Right. Which, that's compounding, right? The 232 is a killer, unfortunately.
Right. Now, so that original 2.5% that savings that you were planning on has gone out the window and then some.
Now, thinking about the FTZ as it stands in a 232 environment, you're stuck. The 232 rates are what they are. 50% right now on steel, aluminum, 50% on lumber and its derivatives, copper and copper derivatives. Now, and I'm speculating here, so another potential hot take, rumor. Don't want anybody thinking I'm locking in on this, but we know the EU trade deal is not finalized yet with the Trump administration. That they're still waiting for some things to be finished up. But again, we keep coming back to that 15%. I'm hearing rumors, and I'm keying in on rumors here, that Europe is hoping to get a tariff rate quota allowing a certain amount of steel and aluminum to come in at a 15% rate. And then once the quota is exceeded, it reverts back to the 50%. Now, an FTZ doesn't help you in that scenario, right? If I import into the FTZ and the tariff rate quota is closed, it's 50%. I can't then remove it when it opens and get the reduced rate because I'm locked in at the rate at the time of entry or import into the FTZ, correct?
Well, you would have to see how customs is planning to implement that if it happens. If you admit it and you're part of the quota amount, you could potentially lock in the 15% into your admission if the quota is open. I'm not sure. This is where, you know, this is where the whole details matter, and you've got to see how customs is planning on implementing it, and what their level of being able to administer it is going to be, because there is that possibility you could admit it and lock in the 15% as part of the quota amount, and then use it over this year. And then because you've locked in as part of the 15, you would get that, you would be paying just that versus the 50% as it comes out.
Now,
potentially.
Now, I know you do not operate a bonded warehouse, but theoretically, I could take that same import of 232 subject material, bring it into a bonded warehouse, whether the quota is full or not, but remove it when there's available space within the quota, and I'm not locked in at the higher rate, but I do get to lock my rate at the time of removal from the bonded warehouse.
Correct. So right now, yes, if you think there's going to be a deal, you could put product into a bonded warehouse and then withdraw it once the deal was implemented and the quota opened, and then take advantage of that and the lower duty rate out of the bonded warehouse versus the foreign trade zone. Now, if you can find bonded warehouse space,
I got
that has been there has been, as the tariffs have grown, and that is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, and there were a number of ports that you didn't even have public bonded warehouse spacing available to the public, and in the ports that had it, it's been getting really hard to get, because people have been trying to take advantage of that. And so, yeah, if you can find it, if you can find the space and take advantage of it, or if you have the the flexibility and can use one of your own facilities and turn it into a bonded warehouse, that's another option. But then you are following all of those same security issues, and of setting up the bonded facility and having giving customs the ability to come in and spot check your warehouse and inventory at any time. So that's the other thing with bonded warehousing and FTZs, is customs has that ability, and they have done that recently. We've heard of them coming in and doing more spot checks for compliance.
So when customs comes into your FTZ, do they bring fork and knife? Are they looking to sample the meatballs? Let's just be honest.
No, they know that at the warehouse there are no meatballs, and there are no free food samples like you might get. There's no soft serve ice cream or the hot dogs either.
Jeez.
All the benefits of the store are only at the store. Unfortunately,
you can't blame them for trying.
Oh no, yeah.
I know.
No, they know that, but and that's another thing is, if you're, how good of your relationship you have with the port directors that are, over your foreign trade zone or bonded warehouse, and how, building that relationship and level of trust is a big thing, because, they, it's, those checks and how they handle them, or your annual review. I mean, we've been lucky and have a very good working relationship with LA, which, and many times has gotten I don't want to say a bad rap, but they are tough on their zones. They're very strict. and we've built a decent relationship. So, and because we're literally on the very edge of their for the zones, they will give us usually a day or two notice when they are coming out for our visits, because they don't want to, basically they don't want to waste either of our time, because it's a 90-minute drive for them. You know, they want to make sure, hey, we're ready for them to come in. We've got stuff ready to pull for them. We've got our manual ready for them to review, and so they respect us enough to give us that, that little heads up. And we try to be as prepared as possible when they come in. If we don't have an answer, we follow up with them very quickly, usually within a week, 2 at the max. And everything is documented and with email and any of the additional documentation that they're asking for. But over the years, I mean, we've built up that reputation with them, that we understand what our responsibilities are. We try to do the right thing. If we've got a destruction or something, we always give them notice ahead of time, even though that the destruction could be covered by our annual 216. We give them a new individual 216 just to give them that heads up.
You are a kind man, a gentle soul.
Hey, that's how you build a good relationship with them. You let them know, anything that's going on.
If you wanted to build a great relationship with me, it starts with apple pie. But just saying, Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris. Thank you all. Thank you, Rachel, for joining and filling in for Anthony today. We greatly appreciate it.